Hi everyone, it's Adrian Leah. This video is going to be me talking about how I see goddesses and gods. I mainly work with the Morgan, and she's a shapeshifter, so I have seen her in numerous ways, but I wanted to share some examples of how I have been given sight for the gods and goddesses. So I won't be able to give all of the ways that I've seen them because there are many, especially with the Morgan. So I'll tell you guys some that come to mind. So one of the deities that I work with is the White Buffalo Calf Woman, and I actually named my dog after her because that was my gift from her. So my senior dog, Lakota, who is a Siberian Husky, and he's generally all white, and so is my other dog. So with the White Buffalo Calf Woman, I had her altar before, but it was more general to Native Americans, and so I did have Native Americans that would be at the altar, but when she first came to me, I saw her with the silhouette of a bird, more specifically like an owl, and with deities in general, I do get them as much larger than humans. So it was a giant bird, and it could move her wings like that, and it wasn't, there wasn't color to her, but I knew that it was. And so I have her and as the Native American altar, but I do have different Native Americans come to me, especially one that I feel like is a guide for me, and I do feel kindness from that altar. When I went through some hard times, I did feel like they felt how I felt, and they did feel sad when they knew that I wasn't the happiest at that time, and they gave their condolences. So the one specifically pops up occasionally, and these are images of clairvoyance, of how I would see them. And with my clairvoyance, I usually see them when I blink or with my eyes closed, and then I would get the image through my third eye. So it's interesting because I wouldn't see it with my eyes, but then I would close them and then I would see. So that was the main experience with the White Buffalo Calf Woman. With Yamaya, I mainly associate her with the whale, and I have said this story another time, but just to say that I do feel like there's a connection in the consciousness between all of the gods and goddesses. So I associate her with the whale specifically, and I do get this vision of me in water, and I turn around in the water because I'm swimming in the water, and then there's this giant eye, and I know that it's a whale, and I feel like that's where her energy really lies, is my consciousness. So that is the main way that I would view Yamaya. I have seen the Fae in many ways, and there are different people have associations of what the Fae are. So I'm going to include them in this video because I feel like I work so well with them, and I feel like there is a deep connection and a family tie with them. So when I see the Fae, I've seen them in different ways over the years. Some in the past I have seen them with just black. They are larger than flies, and they move not as swift, but their wings are larger. And I remember seeing them specifically when I was babysitting somebody, and the child that I was babysitting was he had some mental disabilities, but I feel like there is a connection between him and the dog, because the dog and him have the same birthday, and it's like the dog was the protector of him. And so when I visited, or when I would babysit at their house, I would see on the camera the black soot type of Fae, and I learned that sometimes they show themselves like that when they want to show themselves, but they're not in complete trust with the person yet. So that was a couple of years ago, and I have seen them besides that place. And I remember when I had my stang, and I would the day after I found my stang, I had a vision of the Morgan between two trees because I found the stang in the forest, and I woke up because I was between asleep and half asleep with the Fae laughing, and it's a specific type of laugh, and then that makes you wide awake. It's interesting a lot of when somebody has a similar account to you. So I'm gonna jump to Maka, one of the aspects of the Morgan, and I work with her a lot. The first time I saw her, there were a couple of ways, but I remember specifically that she was in the water and she was laying down, and her hair was all around how you do in water, and it was a ginger color, and then she opened her eyes, and I drew that picture. It's in storage, and when I go back up I'll pick it up, but I didn't show it because a couple months later I saw Laura Daligan. She had a picture that was similar of a depiction of what I saw, so I didn't want to just say that and then maybe somebody would say that you just stole that picture from somebody else, when I really didn't. I had no idea she drew that picture until after the account that I had. I've also seen her with smiling and red curly hair. I do have recollections with my Fae experiences, and she would just be smiling. And even with the Fae, I've had that vision. I have a couple of visions like that too, where I'm flying up a flower, like I can see the stem and I can see the bottom of the flower, and it's very large. And or I would be in a forest, but the forest had like a house, and the house would be so large, and I would be wondering, why is the house so large, because it would be unusual. And then I talked to my best friend about it, and she said that maybe because you were a fae when you were in this. But I also had visions of fae with a boy with curly hair, and he was on top of the horse, and he was just like holding onto the horse, and then assumably his mother, who was an older woman, a little over middle aged, and she had blonde hair, a little curvier, and wearing blue. Currently, I see the fae sometimes as tiny orbs, or I would see them with my third eye. One time I was on my bed, and there's the dresser in front of the bed, and there was the woodland fae that sat on top of the dresser and then disappeared. So I felt like that was a great sign because I feel like there is a trust there. And I do have a close connection with leprechauns. That was when I feel like it was one of my younger experiences, when the ones that I actually remember, because the gap between the 5th grade and the 8th grade are the most blurrier parts, but I've had experience with the leprechaun throughout the years. So when I was younger and I would go over to my godmother's house, I would feel that the ground was different, and I would say sorry to the ground, and my brother felt it too. And so whenever I would walk on the grass, and even now I don't like walking on the grass because the leprechauns live underground, and I didn't learn that until many years later, because I wasn't raised to disbelieve any of that stuff. But I did go to a private Catholic school from pre-K to high school, so I didn't really have those conversations in school. So I am happy that I went. I didn't have a terrible time going to school, and it's nice getting a more rounded view of different philosophies. So even now, I do see the leprechauns, especially around the house, one particular, and they like being more to themselves. And even with my third eye, when I see just to give an example of a leprechaun, like I would see the figure, and then the eyes would usually be closed, like going down like this, but then you would see what they're wearing, like a suit and then a hat. But they don't have to wear that. It's just mainly out of comfort because that's how humans have envisioned them. And so sometimes they may use their glamour a little more so they don't maybe intimidate you or scare you off. Maybe scare you off. So, I'm trying to think of other ways. Well, those were the main ones. I might do more later if you guys are interested in how I see deities. Oh, there's just so many with the Morgan. It's through everyday life. So she would come as different animals, maybe. I do consider her a diva, a DEVA or DEVVA. So a force of nature. And that connects with Cornunos too, and that experience that I had with the stag. So I was walking around the neighborhood. It was nighttime because I was coming from my godbrother's house, who lived in the neighborhood next to mine, and I lived in a safe area. And so I was walking, and I had to go through a school because that was what separated the neighborhoods. It was a grade school, and walking through the parking lot area. And I was on my phone, I was doing something, and I turn to my right side, and I just see a stag right next to me, and it kind of spooked me a little because it was nighttime. And then there were over 10 of them, like, in that parking lot, and I just kind of, like, rushed out of there because I didn't know if they were going to attack me or not. But I didn't want to, like, run out of there, but I, like, quickly walked away. So that was really interesting. And that was before I really took my pagan path seriously. So I might do a video of how I've seen the Morgan in another video, because there's just so many experiences. But one specific one is when I got the Banshee, and that was in my dream, and sometimes she visits. And this one specifically, it was after my grandfather died, and I was in my old house, and then there is this being in my dream, and then all of a sudden it screeched so loud. And I'm one that likes to I like to try to keep dreaming to see if I can get more information out of it. So it went on, and basically I looked it up later, and I've read that those who have ancient relations to the Tuatha Danann, I'm sorry if my Gaelic isn't that great, so at all. So I read that those who have close relations to them were gifted a banshee, so it would be one that would, communicate with you specific messages. Thinking of other ways. I have seen a pink fae before that was interesting, and it was genderless, I would say, and they can come in different colors, because I have seen the fae orbs in different colors, one of them being like a pink color. The Morgan sometimes showed as a deep, deep, deep purple. And sometimes when she would visit me, she had like, you can see the energy going on that was on her, big and purple. And I wondered over the years why she was wider, and I realized that was because she had wings. So that was interesting. And thinking, maybe I should pause it to see if I have anything else. Oh, so I have worked with, and I do still work with St. Martha, Demonadora, and Archangel Michael, and they come larger as well. And so sometimes when St. Martha would cleanse my house, I would see her do this, like she's like with clothes, and she would be larger and her eyes would be golden, and then her hair would be more afroed. And with Archangel Michael, he is like the size of my ceiling, also with wings. Let's see if I can think of others. With Thor, I did get a vision of a being in the sky with the clouds, and that was an interesting one. There was one that I was going to say that I am not remembering right now. There was one when I was young, when I was younger, and I was calling on the Morgan, and I was outside, and like at the end of the street, I saw. It was almost like black lightning. It shot up, so that was interesting, or unless it shot down. I think it shot. It looked like it shot up. I think I'm going to share this last experience. It's not the best experience, but I don't think I was listening to the Morgan at the time, and I was sleeping, and I guess there was this being in the dream that I didn't like, so I was like telling it to go away, and then the Morgan shot out of nowhere, like full on hair, red hair flying through the wind, and then she yelled like you, and then I guess I ran to the hallway and through the door, and then I shut it, and then I woke up. So sometimes it's not the best experience, but it is an experience. There's this one specific one that I thought about, and then it came and went. So oh yeah, one time when I was watching Braveheart, I I'm iffy about Braveheart because it's kind of biased of how they don't like pagans. But so it was in my old apartment, and I was watching it, and when it was done and I went into the other room where the Morgan's altar was, the room felt like thick. The air felt thick, like you could grasp the air. So that was, I say they're all interesting, but I'm trying to just remember those experiences. I did write them down. I don't have the notebook right now. It's up north too. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was interesting. If you have any other questions, please let me know. I'll leave my website, and you can also reach me on Instagram too, Earth Fairy Herbs Tarot. So thank you again. Bye.